Quizlet 101, a beginner's guide for teachers. Right? Learn all the Quizlet teacher basics and how to make the most of it in your classroom. So first off, my name is Rory Yakubov. I'm a high school math teacher. I'm from New Jersey. Shout out all my New Jersey teachers in the chat. I've been teaching for 17 years. I'm going on to my 18th year. How could that be? I'm only 18. Haha, no, just kidding. Going into my 18th year of teaching, I currently teach Algebra 1 and Geometry. I've been a Quizlet user for over 6 years. I don't even know exactly how much time at this point, but it's definitely been for 6 years. I've been presenting and hosting at the Quizlet Conference since 2019. I presented in 2019 and 2020, and then this is my 3rd year hosting the Unconference and getting us set up with all the sessions. So it's been wonderful. Quizlet is absolutely fantastic. It is basically like, I refer to it as the OG, the original of all the study tools online. Quizlet is where it's at. And for me as a math teacher, Quizlet wasn't designed with math in mind in the beginning. Quizlet was designed for, obviously vocabulary, words, and definitions. So even though my study sets are geared towards math, it does not matter what subject you teach, this overall outline is going to help you no matter what in getting started. So are we ready? Let's take a look. My agenda, why Quizlet? How does it help my students? Then we're going to go ahead and create our own classes. And everyone, that is the key to success with Quizlet. You need to make sure you are creating classes, and I will get to all the nitty-gritty why in just a little bit. How to make a study set. Easy, so simple, I promise you. How to copy and edit other study sets, because let's be honest, we don't all have all the time in the world. I know I don't. And I often, even though I make a ton of my own study sets, I am searching on Quizlet saying, I know there's got to be another algebra teacher that made a study set that I can then use. And I can tweak it, edit it however I want, change things, take things out, and then use it for my students. So I'm going to show you how to do that. In-class games are amazing. If you are an in the classroom teacher and you're looking for, exciting ways to get your students involved in learning and working with quick facts, I use Quizlet all the time in my classroom. My students absolutely love it. So I'm going to give you some ideas for that. And then the impact, where it started to where it is now, where is it going? What am I looking to do in my classroom? And then a little Q&A time. So let's take a look first. Why Quizlet, right? There's study tools out there, but again, Quizlet is the OG in my opinion. I used to look at students making physical flashcards. I used to make flashcards myself. Tell me in the chat right now if you used to make your own flashcards on index cards, right? Like the old school, like that's what we did. That's what we did. So why Quizlet? It's a personalized study tool. So everyone's making their own digital versions of what we did on index cards. It's so easy to create and edit. And I'm talking about that from a teacher perspective and a student perspective, right? Because we want to make Quizlet study sets for our students for learning purposes, but then we want to encourage our students to make their own Quizlet study sets too for their other classes. I was looking for in-class and home practice. I want to study with my students in school and show them how to study, but then I want them to be able to take that content and study at home whenever they want. It shouldn't be an in-class situation. With Quizlet now, students have easy access 24/7. They all have a phone in their hand at all moments. So why not make sure that they're using it for good, right? I always say to my students, you have cell phones, use that power for good. And why not have that Quizlet app on their phone or your iPad, whatever device you have, so that you can study whenever you want. You have that easy access. There's so many engaging ways to study, and I'm going to show you a few of those options for you on how you are going to want to teach your students to use Quizlet at home and in your classroom. It's a forever study resource for students. It's not going away. They're going to have these materials. It doesn't expire, anything like that. So you are in good hands and you're setting up your students in very good hands with Quizlet. And it's the #1 in AI enhanced global learning platform. I'm wrapping my head, as many of us are, wrapping my head around using AI in my classroom. What are the positives, benefits? We have a whole panel coming up talking about that. There's just so much going on. And so you can see a little screenshot I took here of what like my Quizlet study sets look like. Oh, I'm just so excited to get you guys all started. So first thing, we need to create our classes. So creating classes, when I started creating classes in Quizlet, it really was to keep my study sets organized and to make sure that, hey, I teach 5 sections of Algebra 1. And so you can see on my screen, Algebra CP, and the periods are numbered very weird, A and B, and the numbers, don't worry about that. But, not all of my classes maybe get the same study sets. Or maybe I teach like an algebra honors class and they get certain study sets, but my CP, my college prep, they don't get those study sets. What's really great about creating classes has always been that I can organize and have, okay, well, I want this class to get these study sets. I want this class to get another study set. Like you can see my lonely geometry class there. There's only 29 study sets. Every year I try to add more, and then I just end up grabbing other people's study sets on Quizlet anyway. But I only have 29 study sets in there, right? But those are geometry specific. I'm not going to be putting in all my algebra study sets into that. But what happened with classes is now classes is the access. It's the key. It's the key in the lock. It's the way to get all of your students to be able to access your content and study with that content for free. Where if they weren't part of a class, they might have to join by themselves with another account. We don't want our students to do that at all. What we want them to do is we want them to join our classes that we're creating. And then once the students join that class, they have access to all the study sets we're creating for them, and they can study and learn and test mode as many times as they want. It won't time them out or anything. Study sets are easily organized when you have them in classes. I'm going to show you because they go nicely alphabetical by created, that it's very important for me to keep my study sets organized. And I strongly suggest no matter what topic you teach, if you are teaching English topics, if you're teaching science topics, and you organize them by lesson number, that you're going to see that's how I organize my study sets, by lesson numbers. It's very important to do that because then it helps the students find your study sets easier. It's organized. It goes maybe through the course of the year in order. It's very good to keep it organized that way. You can really personalize the classes. So you can see here, even though I have a few of the same Algebra CP classes, a few of them have a different number of sets because maybe I have to differentiate. And in certain classes, I want to throw in some extra study sets for additional practice that maybe the other classes just didn't need. And like I said, that last bullet point, use learn and test mode as much as students want with the study sets in your class, but you need to make sure your students join your class to have access to that. You don't want them to just log into Quizlet, find your study sets and study. You want them to be part of your class. So I'm going to show you right now how easy it is to create a class. So hopefully, or if not, it's okay. You were able to pull up a separate tab and you joined Quizlet. You have your account. Maybe you logged in. I'm going to go to my Quizlet account right now. And so my account is I Teach Algebra. That is my name on everything. And you can see that you're going to have this plus sign in the top right-hand corner, and you're going to go ahead and click that plus sign. And what will happen after you click that plus sign is you're going to have options to create a class, a study set, or a folder. So I'm going to go ahead and create a class. And it's going to say, create a new class. Give class members access to the best of Quizlet's study activities like learn and test for all content in your class. It's free. Enter class name. So I'm going to call this Algebra 1 CP period 7. Okay. And then I could enter a description. I don't need to. I could say something specific about our class. What you want to do, where it says here, allow class members to add and remove sets. I teach high school. I teach freshmen. I don't want them adding or removing anything. Maybe if this was a college level class, that might be perfect. Maybe you're making you have a small cohort and you want to have people share this information. It's not even a class. It's, your study friends. That would be a great opportunity for that. For my students, I don't want them to do that. And I also don't want them to invite new members. So I'm going to personally unclick that. So keep that in mind when you're creating a new class. I'm going to then go ahead and click Create Class. And once I do that, my class is here, Algebra 1, period 7. It says study sets make it easier to learn easy for class members to study your content and activities like learn and test. Like I mentioned before, I can go ahead here and click and add a study set. I could browse study sets that already exist. And what I really want to do, the most important part of this whole screen right now, is I want to use this invite link. Now you can copy and paste it. There's already a copy button here. And maybe you want to go ahead and when you click copy, copy it into Google Classroom, copy it into Microsoft Teams, copy it into Canvas, whatever learning platform you're using. Copy it into the welcome letter that goes home to your students, anything like that. Whatever learning space that you're using, that's what you would want to do. So now let's say I wanted to go ahead and add a study set to this class. I want my students to learn. I would click add a study set, and I can either click from all the study sets that I've already actually created, or I can go ahead and create a new set. So I want to show you right now how easy it is to create a new set. Now, I created a new set through the class. Now, just because I do that doesn't mean it can only go to this class. I can share it to all of my classes, okay? The other way is that when I'm just simply in Quizlet itself, I can, at the top, where I had clicked that plus sign to create a class, you'll see the second option says study set. So that's another way to just go ahead and create a class. Now, before I get to that, a study set, creating a study set. We can create study sets in minutes, even seconds if you're copying and pasting someone's study set, and I'm going to show you how to do that. We fill in our terms and definitions. You're going to see it says term on the left, definition on the right. You can add as many terms as you want. So as many cards as you want. I think my biggest study set maybe has something in the 200s, but if you have like 1,000 terms, you're putting together a whole crazy review. Go for it. For math study sets, and I have a math session going on tomorrow, I'll talk to my math teachers about how to flip it, because for terms and definitions, we actually put the problem on the right and the answer on the left. But my math people, I'll see you tomorrow. And you can also add in images. You could do bold, italics, highlighting with the pro version. You want to try to make your study sets with at least 10 problems. They could have the same answer. They could have same answers like true and false, things like that. But we want to try to make our study sets meaningful. So if it's vocabulary based, if it's other question type based things, we want to make sure that it's a full study set so students can actually go through the set, practice, and it doesn't feel like they're over in 2 seconds. You want it to have a little bit of depth. We also want to make sure we strategically name the study set, like I said, because we want to make sure that it's organized in a way that students can easily find that content after the fact. So here, when I go into create my study set, so I'm going to click on the plus sign, I'm going to go to create a study set. At the top, when you go to create a new study set, it's got a space for the title. So let's say I'm putting in multiplication facts. And I know that sounds so silly, but I just need something easy for us to do. Actually, let me put math words, because I don't want to put any math problems in here right now. Now there's options where you can actually import from a data place, a spreadsheet, a Word doc, things like that. I tend to just put in my terms because I want to make things simple. So let's say my first term is sum. When I go to type in sum, you'll see that it auto-populates some possible words. So maybe I was going to type in the word summary, but I could click on that. I really have sum here. Now, because of AI technology, I could go ahead and type in my own definition, but look, there's already options here for me to pick. And if I like one of these, I could just click it. I actually was going to type exactly the answer to an addition problem. I'm going to choose that, and so that's going to be it. Could I edit those words? Could I have typed in anything I wanted? Absolutely. But I may as well just use what's given. What about the next one? If I type in difference. Okay, so I'm choosing difference, and then in my definition, there's the answer to a subtraction problem. It's perfectly for me. If I want to type in the word product, okay, let's say I'm going in for math here. Now, you can see the word product has different definitions, right? So product could be a substance produced in a chemical reaction. The answer to a multiplication problem, that's what I was looking for, a substance that forms in a chemical reaction. So the answer I definitely want is the answer to a multiplication problem. And I could go ahead and I could just continue to, make my study set. And let's say I went through and I made as many problems as I want. I would then click the create button. Okay, so I did all my work. I made what I wanted. I'm going to click create. And then look what's going to happen here. It says nice set, ready to share it. So now I could share this study set that I made via email. I could copy the link directly and drop it where I want, or look what it directly embeds into. It directly embeds into share on Google Classroom. I don't use Google Classroom, so I'm not going to click that. If you are a Remind user, it can go directly to all of your students through Remind. I'm a Microsoft user, so I would click on this one for share on Microsoft Teams, or go ahead, this is the best option, add to class or folder. So remember I created that Algebra CP period 7 class just before? I'm gonna go ahead and click on add to class or folder. And now look, that period 7 class is there. I can click on that plus sign and I can actually click and say, you know what, my period A1, they should get that too. And my period A2 should get it. But you know what, B2 and the rest of them, they're good. I don't think that they need this extra practice. I'm just going to drop it into those 3. Now there's no enter, there's no submit. I've done it. I can click on my X and it's totally there. Now I want to show you, if I go to my library, I can click on see all my classes that are there. And if I click on my library and go to classes, I can now click on that period 7 and look what my period 7 class has. They have that 4-term math word study set that I made. Okay, well now, what if we don't have time, right? What if we don't have time to make these study sets? You can simply go into the search bar at the top of your screen and search for a study set. So let's say I really wanted my students to study some multiplication facts. I find multiplication facts. I can scroll through and look at the different options. Like this one, ooh, there's 39 studiers today on this multiplication facts. I can click preview and I can see what the problems and answers are. And I can kind of get a preview and say, you know what, this is exactly what I was looking for. I could go ahead and click on this study set and I can see, everything that this person already put together, all the problems. If I wanted to edit this study set, okay, down here where it's got, whoops, sorry about that, my triple dots. I could add this to my class or folder. And once I add it to my own class or a folder that I've created, I would then be able to edit it and my students would have my edited version. Now, if I was to do that, let's say I had added it to my class and I wanted to do some studying. Let's see, I'm going to add it to my period 7. Let's say my period 7 really needs those facts. So I went and I just clicked on the plus sign so that it only went to my period 7. I'm going to go back to my library. I'm going to check out my Algebra 1 CP period 7. There's the multiplication and math facts study set that I have here. I could go ahead and click on that study set that's here. And now when I go through it, I would be able to edit this. So now if I see this button here, it says save and edit. If I click save and edit, it's going to copy all of that content that was just in that study set for me. And if I wanted to, I could hit the delete card. I could get rid of it. I could change it. I could say, you know what? I don't like the spacing here. I want to do 1 times 2 and maybe have spaces in between. You can get as particular as you want. And then when I click create, that study set is now saved exactly how I wanted it to be. Now, here's the real meat and potatoes of what's happening with Quizlet. You've either created your own study set, you went and you copied someone else's study set like I just showed you, but now we actually need to do the practice. And so there are so many different ways to practice here. You can practice in flashcards, you can practice with Learn, Test, Match, and there's the Q chat that's there, that's super fun. You can also do Checkpoint or Classic Live. So let me show you. If I took these multiplication facts and I clicked on flashcards. So flashcards would be a problem, and then I would have to think to myself, what's the answer? And then I would click on my screen and it would give me the next problem and I would be able to go on. I can then arrow over and go to the next problem. With flashcards, there are some options how you can do this. You can have the audio on, you can answer in different ways and so on. Flashcards is pretty much the most basic way that I would think that someone would want to learn. If I had to pick, the way I encourage my students often to do for studying is to click on the Learn feature. So when you click on Learn, it says, hey there, what's your goal for this set? Do you want to quickly study or do you want to memorize it all? So I might say, you know what, I just want to quickly study. I don't need to memorize every single fact here. I just want to do that. So I'm going to click Continue. I'm going to click that maybe I know some of it, but I don't know all of it. So Quizlet's taking this data and trying to build the best layout for me. And then I have multiple choice problems here. 1 times 2, up, the answer is 2. I click on it, it tells me nice work, it goes on to the next one. 2 times 2 is 4. 3 times 2 is 6. And you can see across the top that this bar increases as I go through the study set. Now, what I often tell my students to do, because I am a math teacher, is I tell them to click on Options. And I say to them to maybe check out the questioning type format. So for example, do I want them to answer with term or definition? You can have them switched. Do I want the writing mode to be on? Do I want my students to type in answers, or do I want it just to be multiple choice? Do I want to shuffle? This one I saw the first few problems were kind of easy. So I may say to my students, hey, you know what? When you're studying those multiplication facts, go ahead and click shuffle so you get the big numbers too. After clicking that, if I exit out and now I answer this next question, 8 times 9, you can see it immediately jumped to some bigger numbers. So 72. I can also change it look like this so that it says choose the matching term. Here's the answer 4, but which one of these would get me an answer of 4? So you can see it can alternate that way. 3 times 12 is 36. And so you as the teacher and basically teaching the students how to use Quizlet can maximize your learning capabilities. How do you want the questions and answers to be? Here's another one. Which one of these is 81? It's 9 times 9. And then it says, you've got this, keep going. So it shows me, I just got through the first 10 terms out of 163. I could see my progress bar. It's going to show me the ones I got right. I got them all right, but it would also show me the ones that I got wrong if I definitely, made some mistakes and I needed to go back. The next best way for students to learn on Quizlet, in my personal opinion, on their own, is to do the test mode. So when you're doing test mode, it will ask you how many questions you want right off the bat. Quizlet will default and say, we're going to make a 20-question test out of the study set that's there. But you know what? 10 questions is a lot of questions. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change it to, let's say, 10 questions. And when I go to answer it with 10 questions, I can also choose what kinds of questions do I want my 10 questions to be? True or false, multiple choice, matching, written. I do love true, false, multiple choice, matching, and written. I tend to uncheck the written, and matching rather. I tend to uncheck the written, but why not? Let's give it a try. And I'm going to go ahead and click Start Test. And what Quizlet did is it took out of those 163 multiplication problems, it randomly grabbed a couple to be true or false. So is 40 what 8 times 5 is? That's true. Is 6 what 3 times 2 is? That's true. What's the answer to set? Which one of these problems would get me 72? Ooh, it's 8 times 9. Which one of these would get me 24? Now I'm going to answer this one incorrectly so you can see what happens. I'm going to pick 4 times 8. 81, 9 times 9. Now here's the matching. Click a term to match it with its definition. Select from the list below. So this is a cool drag and drop. I love this part of match. So let's say I go ahead and I drag my 11 times, whoops, that one's not dragging for me. Oh, click, sorry. I'm so used to dragging and dropping from match. And then 88 is 11 times 8. And now here the type in. So 20, I might say, oh, that's 4 times 5 is 20. How would I multiply to get 2? 2 times 1, and then 27, 3 times 9, let's say. And so I would go through that. Are you ready to submit your test? I would go ahead and submit my test. It would tell me how I did, how many I got correct, how many I got incorrect, how much time it took me that I got an 80%. and then it would show me what I did and what I got right and what I got wrong. I can also print the test. If you take a look at the top right-hand corner, that's awesome. It'll show me on the left which questions I got wrong, so I can directly click right to those. And oh, you know what? I got 24 wrong. I thought it was 4 times 8, but it was really 3 times 8, so it's showing me. So that is a really, really excellent feature. And I could just keep testing again over and over. And that's why you want your students to be part of your class, because when they are in your class, they're going to be able to test and use the Learn as much as possible. Another one is match. So if I took this study set and I went ahead and I clicked on match, make everything disappear, start game. And so this is me dragging and dropping to get my answers. So let's see, 10 times 10 is 100. And then let's see what else, 4 times 4 is 16. And so this is a fun way for students to study in a quick drag and drop. I just have to move my screen so I can see all my numbers. 5 times 2 is 10, 3 times 2 is 6, and then 4 times 5 is my 20. And so it will do this. And what's really fun about match is that it keeps my score, and it will keep everyone's score also that plays with the study set, and it builds a fun competition between the students to see what place, and students can continue to go back into match and play and continue to try to get their best score. The other two options, the other two options for doing some great practice in Quizlet is to use Quizlet Live and to use Checkpoint. So Quizlet Live is a fantastic way for students to practice in game mode. So I just want to go back to this in my presentation here. We copied and so in-class games. This is a picture of my classroom for my students like 4 years ago at this point. It's so sad, sorry, about playing Quizlet Live, and you can see they're in groups. They're working together. Quizlet Live will put students in groups, and then it will send questions to the groups. Like I saw the questions individually as an individual learner. That might be something I do at home with practice, but then I use those Quizlet study sets in my class, have my students break out into their groups. It sends the groups the questions, and they have to talk to each other because they all get multiple choice answers, but only one student in the whole group actually has the right answer. So if the question on the group screen says, 4 times 2, only one student in that group will have 8 as an answer. So they have to communicate with each other. They have to make sure that they carefully look at their screen and make sure that they don't have the right answer. It is fantastic. You could do random groups. I have the Quizlet Plus option, so I'm able to have my students pick their own groups. That's one of the pro options for sure. The hardest way to do Quizlet Live is definitely in silent rounds when students have to be quiet, but they're in groups and they can't tell each other that they have the answer, they don't have the answer. It's really a wonderful experience. There's going to be a session coming up on games, so I would make sure that you guys join that session to really see the games in action. And then Checkpoint. Checkpoint is a full group review. So what happens is students will join Checkpoint and they'll all get the same question on my screen and on their screen. They answer it. It's not in like separate groups or anything. It's whole class study. So the way I was just doing Learn on my screen individually. It's like the whole class together. We're picking on the answer, we're having conversations, and there's a fun leaderboard that goes along with it. Now, just the general impact in Quizlet, and I know I went through a lot here. It is such a huge time saver. Listen, you're not going to create all these study sets in 1 year unless you're a super overachiever. I've slowly built up my Quizlet study sets little by little. And every year I try to tweak them a little bit. I add a little bit more content. It's a huge time saver in the long run for sure. And it's, again, so easy to copy and paste other people's study sets to save some time. Students get so much more practice doing Quizlet study sets rather than doing paper reviews. I'm a math teacher. I used to print out math packets on paper for students to do plenty of questions. And it's tough. How many times can a student go through and write something on paper? Once. But with a Quizlet study set, they could study and practice and then go through a whole study set of review. And then the next day, start all over again. Or a week from then, start all over again. And they don't have to ask for another paper copy, or they're not printing out more paper. So that, I think, has been an incredible impact. Students have access to practice at their fingertips. You know, they're not looking for a packet anymore. They don't have to search for it. It's just there on their phone on Quizlet. The engagement during Quizlet Live is always magical. Like I said, there's so many different ways to play. I don't have more fun than when I play Quizlet Live in my class. And I always like to keep a big container of Jolly Ranchers ready to go so that the winning team, I get to, you know, toss them some Jolly Ranchers. If we're playing checkpoint, I give the top 3 scorers some Jolly Ranchers. It's a lot of fun. And we play as many rounds as we can. Students have learned the benefit of creating their own study sets for other classes. So, you know, here I am as their math teacher, I'm making these study sets for my students, but then I'm also encouraging them to say, hey, listen, you could be making these own study sets for your classes too. Let me show you how to do that. You know, go into your account, hit the plus sign. You're studying for biology, make a study set for that. Why wouldn't you? You're studying for your French test coming up, make a study set and then share it with your friends, right? Make a group chat, share these Quizlet study sets with each other. It's an amazing learning experience. Quizlet is such a reliable tool. It has been there nonstop. It's not, you know, something that can't get accessed or there's bugs or issues. Quizlet is always smooth sailing in my classroom, at home for my students. I haven't had any issues and it's just been incredible. And it keeps getting better. It's incredible to think how, you know, in the opening speech with Lex and Megan, how many more things are coming through. I can't even imagine what Quizlet's going to look like in a year from now with all of the new additions. And bottom line is my students love it. Quizlet has become a go-to for my students. Many of my students that I started using Quizlet with are now in college, and I know they're using Quizlet for their own studying. It's a beautiful situation that's definitely happened. Again, I know there's been a ton of content here. I'm gonna check out some Q&A and see if I can answer some of your questions. All right, so okay, so Jennifer asked, is there a limit to the number of classes you can make? I don't believe so. I have not had an issue with me creating up to 12 classes. If you needed to create more than that for whatever reason, I'm sure you certainly could. What I tend to do with my classes is, because I tend to always teach either 5 or 6 sections a year, is I have my classes created with all the study sets that I want to be in there. And then at the end of the year, or before the next year starts, I go through and I delete all of my students from that past year. And I maybe change the section number, like if the section is changing, and then I invite my students to join that new class. So you don't have to create brand new classes every single year. You can just delete the member list and then start fresh each time. So I think that's been super helpful. Is there a limit to how many students can be in each class? Carol, I don't believe so. You know, college professors I know use this and could have hundreds of students in their Quizlet classes. I've never had an issue with student size. Do we have to add students manually to a class, or do we have confirmation? Okay, so this was probably asked before I showed about that, but when you have your class and you open up, there's a direct link, which will be so easy for students to join. Students actually can also just go to your Quizlet page. So I might say to students, hey, go to quizlet.com/I-teach-algebra, and you'll see it says classes. And then go ahead, click on our period 2, and then just ask to join class. It's very simple. And the students are going to be very used to joining classes, I think, for sure, even if it's not from Quizlet, but like another program. Let's see. My students are young in elementary school. They do not have their own accounts. What am I doing? Share. So you may want to see, because they definitely have some kind of student account. It may not just be something that's linked, and that would be on the technology side of the tech department, to see if all of their users in the district can get synced with Quizlet to be able to access it that way. That might be a good thing to use. We use a platform called Clever. So our elementary students can just simply log into Quizlet without even actually having to type in a username or password, because Clever itself is a password saver. So that's probably something that you would want to do. Let me see. I'm going to just scroll through here because of time. I apologize if I can't get to everyone's questions. Kimberly asked, can you sync these classes with Google Classroom classes as you set them up? Absolutely. Absolutely. So you can directly link through Google Classroom. Your students will have that access there. Quizlet has linked up so beautifully. Can I update a class or not? Absolutely, you can always update a class. You can go into the class, you can remove members, you could change the name, you could change the description. You can basically do whatever you want after you've already created a class. Oh, can I create a different study set for each student different if they learn in the same class, or should I create a new class for each student individually? Don't create a new class for each student individually. However, let's say you have a class and in your class you do have students with IEPs or 504s and you want them to get additional study sets. What you could do is just simply send those additional study sets to the whole class so everyone has access to it. Or you could set up an additional class possibly for those students and have those additional study sets there. I wouldn't make an individual one for every student, but maybe 7 or 8 of your students in that class, maybe you want them to be part of an extra class for additional support or help. That's not a bad idea. Pascal asked, can I share from a folder? Absolutely. So folders are great if you don't want to set up them feeling like they're in a true class. Like, for example, if I was a college student, I might set up folders instead of setting up classes, because I want to organize. Here's my math study sets. Here are my English study sets. Here's my science study sets. So that would be a great use for a folder. For a folder, it's really more for your own personal use that you have things organized. Whereas in the classes, it's really so that I'm distributing content to students specifically that I want to make sure that they are using. Christine asked, how do you get more definitions if the pre-populated ones are not the ones I want? So I could have gone through possibly and scrolled. I could maybe type in my word a little differently to see if other options would pop up. But in general, you can always just type in whatever you wanted. I just wanted to show you how cool it was that options do actually pop up in general. Carrie asked, if we create a class, can the class roll over to use the same study sets year after year? Absolutely. So I mentioned that just before, but I know this question came in way earlier, that's what I do. I'm not going to reinvent the wheel every year. Absolutely not. I'm going to delete my students from period 1 and then just add my new students in for each year. Cheryl asked, can we search for a study set by specific teacher? So it's possible. Some teachers have put in by their name and they could be searchable. You could search I teach algebra if you were looking for my study sets. It's possible that it will come up that way. It really depends on where that content is. Just like any search engine, is it in the subject? Is it in the description of the study set? But things are definitely searchable by person. Pascal asked another great question. Do I see the students' scores and errors when sharing a test with them? So as a teacher, you're going to be able to see that class progress. I'm going to be able to see, ooh, he had gotten an 80 when he did the test version. And then, oh, another student got a 60 when they did test version. And what Quizlet will do is it'll show you the highest test score. So let's say you got an 80, but then you redid a test and you got a 90. I'll see the 90. I'll say, wow, he was able to score a 90 as his highest test score option when he was studying that study set. Mary Lou asked, Quizlet Live only allows a certain amount of students in for free, I found. So I haven't had a problem with Quizlet Live. I teach, my classes could be up to like in the low 30s, and I haven't had any issues with the amount of students joining in a live. So I'm not sure what would have happened there. Okay, so anonymous person asked, are these features available on the free version or on the paid version? So everything I showed you is in the free version, you guys. When you sign up as a Quizlet teacher, everything I showed you, you have access to. The only additional things that are really part of the pro option is if you want to add in pictures or diagrams, which I like to do because I like to add in graphs to my study sets. In the Quizlet Live option, it lets the students pick their groups, but that's not really necessary. If you want to just run the free version, it'll randomize them and have them and put them in whatever groups. And then the other thing is about like the pro option allows for bolding and highlighting, some extra plus features, but everything I showed you here today, you would be able to do with no problem. Let's see here. Kelsey asked to play Quizlet Live. Do the students need to log into your classroom or just a copy code? They don't have to log in when they're playing Quizlet Live at all. You would just, run Quizlet Live. The code would go on the screen. They just put the code into on their website and it joins them right in. So Quizlet Live is super quick to do. And I have time for just a couple more questions. Oh, so Chrysanth, I answered the question about Quizlet Plus. Can you talk about QChat? So QChat is very cool. And I strongly suggest you just mess around as a teacher with QChat. Go into a study set, click QChat. I don't have time here today, unfortunately, but there's going to be more sessions showing off QChat about the interactive feature with it. Oh, I have it in my math slide, or my math presentation for tomorrow, actually, about what it would look like if I, clicked on QChat and what I wanted to test me on. And hey, what do I think about this? It's incredible what is happening. So definitely stay tuned for more sessions about QChat. And let's see. Oh, June, so you're having problems saving someone else's study set into your own use. So you want to make sure you click on the icon that looks like 2 pages. So after you open up the study set, click on the icon that looks like 2 pages. It's going to say copy and edit. And once you click the copy and edit, then it becomes your own study set. Then it's in your own, it goes under your name. It's not under someone else's name anymore. So that should hopefully be helpful. Well, I need to wrap things up. We're at time. I want to thank everyone right now for such a wonderful, wonderful session. I am super thankful for everyone that is here that joined me today in this session. You guys have been absolutely incredible. I really hope that you enjoy all of the rest of the sessions. I'm going to see you a little bit later. Remember, this whole session was recorded and you're going to be able to re-watch it on the Zoom events page so that until August 9th, so that you can make sure that you are all good to go and you can use Quizlet in your classroom this year. All right, everyone, thank you so much. Thank you, guys. Bye, everyone. Thank you. Bye, guys.